Hi, and welcome to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself, Tisha S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville. I am also welcoming you to the last day of 2025. If you have made it, it is only by the grace of God because He is the reason any of us are breathing. So, Mr. Flood, I think we all ought to tell Him thank you for getting us here.
I do.
Nonetheless,
I do.
nonetheless, how are you today? Yes, sir. How are you today? Um and are you ready for uh are you ready for a new year?
Well, I'm glad this is the last day that my creditors can call me in 25, and I hope they don't start in 26. So I'll be ready if I can get a 365-day recruit.
Okay. And are you gonna bring in the new year any kind of way special? Do you have anything big planned?
No, I think I'm going. Well, I don't think I'm going to our church service. And those who opt not to do it this way, Rowan Street Park is going to have an activity today, tonight, and also individuals have, excuse me, activities. But Tish, I was thinking about this New Year celebration and how some people do. They stop by the ABC store, which is owned by the state. They drink the state liquor. A state highway patrolman issued them a citation. They go into state court and pay a state fine, and then they may be put on probation, and then that person he will be supervised by a state person. And I'm just trying to see how in the world can you win?
Yeah, you don't win if you drink,
I
especially
mean,
if you're
I mean
drinking drive.
the state controlling all of it, and then you pay
Yeah,
a lawyer to go and appear for you in front of the state.
yeah,
So just don't drink. Just don't drink. Save that court fine, and
absolutely.
then it stays on your record permanently. And then again, it's 2 to 5 years that it's on your driving record. So if you can leave it alone and go to church service, or bring it in a wholesome way,
Yeah.
26, because I'm looking around the corner there and I see my creditors, got it on speed dial, the program to dial at 801 on the 26.
Yeah. Well, as we prepare to see the headlines on tomorrow and the following day, let's hope that none of them are about loss of life or about arrest or any of the other things that come along with ignorant behavior that we often see around the this time of year. And let's remember that everybody has somebody that loves them, so let's try to make sure that they get to love them for another 365 years.
Well,
Um,
if you don't mind, Kwanzaa also celebration. This is the last day for Kwanzaa at the Smith Rec Center. So if you have time, you want to stop by and just participate in that. That is, that's good. And Charles Evans is having a fundraiser on the 10th of January the 20, which is year 26 on 46, and it's gonna be at the old military, gonna be at the old Fairground military facility there. And then teach the Fayetteville Cumberland County Ministerial Council brunch. It's gonna be on the 19th at the Crown Coliseum. And tickets, well, I don't know. I know WIDU have some tickets there for sale, and it's $35, and I think the time is 10 o'clock. And the worship service is going to be on the 20, it's the 18th there. And the last thing, teach you that there was an article in the Fayetteville Press as it relates to the Martin Luther King program as it moved towards the spiral. And I was so pleased to see that they have indicated of the $2.5 million from the state that they have spent $352,000. But the committee itself didn't know about the article that was in the Federal Press, and they're still waiting to see and view some of the invoices uh, that have been submitted and paid. So, if you can talk with the chair of the Martin Luther King uh, Committee, please ask them to share those documents. Now, as it relates to the state auditor, no, I'm sorry, the Office of Budget and Management, it states that the King Committee is in compliance, but they're in compliance as it relates to language. But the Office of Budget and Management manage the state budget, and manage the state budget, Madam Waddell, is dollars, not language. And so, if you look at any of the reports that's submitted to the Office of Budget and Management, it does not have a dollar figure. So the committee is still in the dark like the community. But it's a good article. Good article.
Good deal. Good deal. Any other announcements, Mr. Floyd?
No, 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 no. That is it. And I just like to look back over the last year with some of the things that we talked about there. And the last thing that we talked about prior to was the development of more housing units, some 84 housing units on Murchison Road, right beside Mount Sinai apartment, right before you get to the Fayetteville State University. That is the institution that I received some recognition from during my youth. And I don't know why in the world you want to put another housing unit right before you get to a multi-million facility, meaning the campus of FSU.
Well, Chris Colley let everybody know why that was happening, because if you recall, he talked about how when they were looked at for the Choice Neighborhoods grant,
yes,
the city's application needed to be strengthened, and he noted that Colvin. Let me back up. Colvin noted that the timing aligned with another priority, which is strengthening the city's next application for a Choice Neighborhoods grant, which is again that federal program that would support the affordable home ownership project opportunities in the surrounding neighborhood. Chris Colley, the city's director of economic and community development, told the members of council that after being passed on the previous round, Fayetteville was encouraged to gain leverage by having a housing project already underway, which shows tangible progress rather than waiting for federal funding to arrive. So, this is, I'm doing air quotes if you're just listening. This is supposedly in response to the Choice Neighborhoods grants recommendation that they should already have a housing project underway in order to strengthen their application.
let me say this to you, is that Mrs. Green, Councilperson Green, she indicated that when the city first purchased that project, it was for economic development, the property. Second, we heard that in one discussion that a new city hall may be built on that site, but we knew better than that. But it was a good conversation there. And so
we also heard about a MOU between Fayetteville State and the city of Fayetteville, because Fayetteville State was considering expanding their student housing in that direction, given their elevated enrollment rates.
yes, but now what I don't understand is that the city provides 3.5 million. This person, the developer, is seeking 10 million, but the public does not know how much the developer is going to put in.
And I wish to remind everybody, as you're talking about those dollars, I'd like to pause you for just a second and remind everybody that's paying attention that these dollars, like you said, the sale only moves forward if developers secure a 4% low income housing tax credit award from the state, complete environmental reviews, and meet conditions previously approved, tied to a previously approved $2.88 million city loan commitment, which is, and this is important, everybody, I need you to hear what I'm getting ready to say, that $2.88 million city loan commitment would be the first allocation from the 2022 voter approved housing bond. That is important because it goes back to one of our most watched podcasts of this year, which is the podcast where we discussed the censorship of attorney Jonathan Charleston, who also serves as the city's bond counsel. This is important because we have been waiting to see what the city's response was going to be to this censorship, given the fact that the censorship aligns with what's a good way to say it, Mr. Floyd? With some poor decision making where communication is concerned at a legal level, not just poor decision making, but decision making that contradicts apparently the bar's standard with with it in terms of an issue with the municipality and a judge. And so I think that this is very important because the city of Fayetteville has not demonstrated a commitment to respond to this censorship. And we have told everybody from the very beginning, this is a big deal in the legal community and needs to be addressed by our governing board because our tax dollars are still being spent with an attorney who has been censored by his own governing body. Mr. Floyd, I think that this is important. I think what we should be seeing happen is a wraparound conversation about how the city will move forward with their bond council. We talked a lot about this enmeshment of or this entanglement of individuals and how they are just sort of sort of mangled together with our city government. And I'm going to take some time and think through this a bit more clearly so I can articulate this better. But just, at a glance, this
I
is
think the
interesting.
new council will look at things, a little bit different than the old council with the three new members. Not, and what you just said is that the city worked very close with the Murchison Road Improvement Group for 2 years for the first two initial applications. But what's surprising is that the staff worked out this agreement, okay? And the community was told on the Thursday that they were going to present this offer to the city council on Monday. So that's what we're talking about is how the city staff and city has been operating. You have worked with a group for two applications. Then you meet with meet with a developer that had to jump through all of these hoops, and you notify them on Thursday that you're going to present this to the city council. And they had some concerns about the location and about federal state there. So I'm just hoping that this year that we can have a little bit more transparency. Now let me fast forward you and come back to you now. Transparent and accountability is good, but if I can carry you to the city manager of Cary and come back, how a piece of property was bought, but it was bought legally, but it was bought in two different stages, which appeared the transparency was there because that person was able to spend $1 million. So he spent the $1 million on contract A, and then he spent a separate one on contract B. So let's just look at this stuff. The city need to just slow down and start taking a very careful look at how the staff bring forth information to them for approval. I think that goes back to the vote that was taken, and the person said that he had the right and the authority to make those changes, although the policy require him to have a review. So,
And there still hasn't been any accountability where that's concerned in terms of holding him accountable for that bad decision. And we're talking about um, Lauren Biner,
Yeah.
and him putting out a statement about Dino Hondros's vote um, after the
But
inauguration. But let me say this, Mr. Floyd, very quickly. I think it's interesting because you use two words that our community has demonstrated that they really don't care about, because they continue to move forward with candidates that did not reflect or represent these two values, that were incumbents, and that is transparency and accountability. So, Mr. Floyd, I'm not even going to make a big issue about that at this point, because I recognize now that this community does not value transparency and accountability. And so that's not even a speaking point for us anymore, because our voters have already said that's not the top concern for them. So um, I think what I'm going to try to do over this next iteration of our podcast is begin to understand how our voters have expressed what's important to them, and then begin to speak to their issues from that perspective, because they've demonstrated that that's of no consequence.
let me say this to you. If you go back and look at the snapshot of the vote, we can move forward. If you go back and look at the snapshot of the vote that was taken for the mayor pro tem,
Hmm.
and the communication director said that he saw the gentleman's hand. Okay, that he saw the gentleman's hand. Now, how in the world could he see the gentleman's hand when the person was literally taking notes?
I don't remember reading that part, but I'll tell you that the pictures
But
that we saw, there's
go back and look at the picture in one of our local
no,
media.
no, I
It has a
understand. I
snapshot.
understand.
It has a snapshot of those persons raising their hand to vote for the mayor pro tem, and it shows that that person was taking notes during that particular period of time.
Right.
And he saw his hand, so that makes you look at, is the person being truthful to the public?
Yeah, but truthfulness doesn't matter to our voters. They've
Okay.
demonstrated that it doesn't matter to our voters. So I don't even know if that should be something that we should. I don't
Well,
know if it should be a sticking point for our podcast, because it doesn't matter to our voters. Because
well,
there have been multiple times along the way where we have seen an behavior that appears to be unethical, where the truth seems to be absent, and where there's a lack of transparency. I mean, you talked about the dinner meeting when you discussed where this conversation took place, and if you recall, Mr. Floyd, that's a sticking subject, because people don't feel like the dinner meeting is in alignment with all of the things. So none of the but that don't matter to our
I
voters. That they don't care about that.
need the dinner. I need the dinner meeting when I don't read my package material, and
But
I
the voters
listen,
don't care.
and I
The
listen at the
voters don't care
and I
about
listen at
that.
the advice of the staff. When I
Right.
don't
And the
read,
council knows that the voters don't care about that, because when given an opportunity to bring the dinner meeting into alignment with the what we perceive the policy states the meeting should be held in accordance with, they said no. And Mario brought that forward before he left office, and the vast majority of the council said no, to the point where it didn't move forward. So the council understands that the voters don't care about that, and so they're going to keep moving forward the way they're moving forward. And Mr. Floyd, I'm going to be honest with you. If the voters don't care, there's nothing we can do.
well, I think Teach, a lot of time perhaps it has not been discussed, and
I
so
disagree.
let us be no, so let us be that voice crying out in the
Oh no,
wilderness.
we'll continue to do
Okay,
that. But what I'm
let us be
saying is
that
I
voice.
recognize, but it's not that it has, I'm going to say this, it's not that it hasn't been discussed, because that dinner meeting has come up multiple times. While
Yes.
I was on council, the dinner meeting was discussed, because there was something that happened with a dam, and I was very clear in a public meeting about what was transpiring in the dinner meeting, and what happens on the telephone when the council members start calling each other and having conversations about, this is what's happening and this is what we want to do. These things have been talked about. People, I'm going to continue to assert, people either don't believe it or they don't care. And
Well,
until our voter population demonstrates a care, it we get what we get, and we don't pitch a fit. Now, Mr. Floyd, I do want to say this. I think that one of the things that I'm coming to grips with is that this our government has always been intended to function exactly the way our government functions. I don't know that there's a point in history that we can look to and say we've had great government. I don't
I,
know that, and I'm talking about from its inception, not only municipal from a municipal level, but all the way up to nationally. And I think even if you look internationally at government, government has functions exactly the way that it was originally. When you go back to the early civilizations and you look at the inception of a governing process, it functions exactly the way that it's always been designed to function. And I think that it's been very idealistic of me to think that it would do anything different than what we've always seen it do.
well, I think that change comes when people begin to understand. Now, thankful today, there's a little bit more communication about how government works, as it has been, in the past. But like you said, information is shared, but our public here strongly believe it doesn't make any difference if I like you. If I like
What do
you,
you
it has no bearing on what you do and how you do it and when you do it. I just like you, and I'm going to be a supporter of you. So I close my ear to things that is not accountable and transparent.
Before I ask you the next question, I want to ask you because I'm gonna tip you off on the question so you can have some time to think about it. I'm going to ask you what has been your favorite show this year, 2025 year. But before I get to that, I do want to make mention of the fact that we are starting to see op-eds and conversations from the community about the possible closure of these schools. We still have not heard anything from the school board. We've not heard any real major statements about how they wish to um, sort of digest and operate based upon the information that has been received. However, I've seen two articles now about two different schools. So is it Beaver Dam or Beaver Creek
Beaver Dam,
Elementary?
Beaver Dam,
Uh-huh. And then the other one is Massey Hill. I read an
Massey.
op-ed about Massey Hill. So people, the community is saying, hey, we don't want these schools closed. And I understand the nostalgia of it all. And I'll say this, it's to be expected that the community will begin to speak out when these types of changes are discussed. What do you think where do you think we are with that?
Well, I think that they are going to have a discussion. I think it's around the sometime after the Martin Luther King birthday next month to go into more depth with the consultant recommendation. But when I look at that, if I can fast forward you, one of those um, I don't know whether it's renovation of E. Smith or build at the second site. I mean, at the present site. And I think that that's what's going to hurt Glenn Adams and his chance of being reelected back to the county board of commissioners, because that matter could have been resolved under his watch. So I think that you're talking about renovation of E. Smith, and if I can fast forward you again, I'm in that fast forward move. You got to do something about the appearance prior to getting to Smith off Murchison Road. It's the same thing that we talked about earlier on this program about arriving at Fayetteville State and you go through two housing area. So appearance is everything. So, but I do think again that the closure of the school, and I talked with you about this before, is that, and you mentioned about it probably will help with the teacher and workforce shortage. But at the same time, many people are going to lose their employment opportunity with this consolidation recommendation if it goes through as it presented. Because you don't need the same workforce.
So I want to touch on two things that you mentioned. No, I don't. I don't even want to talk about that yet. I'm gonna give it some time before we start talking about this election cycle. But my vantage point is just a slight hair shifted from where yours is. But we'll get into that as we start seeing a few more things unfold. But I just think that it's interesting because again, I just don't. Mr. Floyd, I just don't know. 2025 has really opened my eyes to the reality that these people don't care what their government does.
Well,
They'd rather spend time, our community would rather spend time vilifying, and I'm going to speak specifically about Cumberland, about the city of Fayetteville, because the city of Fayetteville is very blue. No matter how you slice it, the city of Fayetteville is very blue. They would rather spend time vilifying people of different parties, or bickering about stuff that doesn't matter, than really looking at the nature of what the infections are in our community, and how those infections are really causing us to be extremely sick, and making our community one of the illest communities in the state of North Carolina. We are unable to get well because we are not willing to address the infection that pervades our community. And the infection is not what people think it is. It's not about Democrat or Republican. It is about the all the stuff we talked about throughout the course of the year that people got really excited about for about 5 minutes and then just walked away from when it was time to do something about it. I'm going to continue to urge our viewers, dig deeper into the censorship of Jonathan Charleston, Attorney Jonathan Charleston. Understand the nature of how the relationship of Attorney Jonathan Charleston affects not only our governing bodies, but the governing bodies of the surrounding communities. Understand what you're really up against. Look at when you talk about land acquisition, and this is switching from Jonathan Charleston now. Now we're talking about other players in this community. Look at how land is acquired in this city and how the price of it continues to be inflated before it is sold to the city of Fayetteville. Look at how different projects have been pushed forward by certain agencies or entities, and how those agencies, like I'm gonna tell you, Mr. Floyd, it's very interesting to me. It's interesting to me that when I go back and I look at Vision 2026, and I have talked about this since we started the podcast. Nobody seems to be picking this up, but I need for somebody to get on board and understand what I'm talking about here. When we look at Vision 2026, every single project that was put forward by the board of Vision 2026, and you can still see who that board is. I'm not going to sit here and run down the list of people who are on that board, but you can still see who they are. And these are the very people that are a part of what we've got going on in this community. But when you look at their project list, everything on their project list has moved forward with the exception of two items, and that is countywide water, which is Kirk Devier's pet project right now, and the other one is the center that was supposed to be in front of the courthouse, which interestingly enough got killed by this board of county commissioners, and that's a juxtaposition. I don't understand it. I've not figured it out yet, but the fact that all of that has been done, nothing outside of it has been done. There's nothing else outside of this project list that is matriculated or come into materialize. That's the word I want to use. That is materialized in our community. Who's running the show? How are they running it? And what is their game?
We understand that we have 8 minorities on the city council. And
so
but we see very little change, in a certain area of our,
you have a majority of minorities on the county commissioners too, Mr. Floyd. You have 2 white people on the county commissioners, and that's Henry Tyson and Kirk Deviere. Everybody else is a minority.
But now you got. I mean, I don't. When I look at Jonathan Charleston, I see him as an attorney, and he is not running a non-profit organization.
But my point is not about Jonathan Charleston.
Profit organization. So if he can get himself in a position to make profit, and the community and the governing boards allow that,
I will never sign off on agreement with that. Not if you can do it and everything is above board, great. But when you are being censored by the state bar, When you are being censured by the state bar, that demonstrates that you're not doing everything above board. And this may be the time you got caught, but it doesn't mean that it's the only time that it's happened. And so if I agree with you, as long as everything remains above board and there's nowhere where the checks and balances have been subverted. But I'll tell you this, Mr. Floyd, the censorship is public documentation that somewhere along the line for this attorney, the checks and balances have been subverted. And additionally, that says to me that a lot of what I spoke about across the span of time, there's some truth to it, if
Right.
not wholly truthful, and it needs to be continued to be talked about and continue to be looked at. But again, he's not the sole source of the comment that I'm making, because Jonathan Charleston is a small fish in that pond. He's not even the big player. He's just the attorney that's getting FaceTime right now. There are other people who are a part of the manipulation of our governing boards that nobody ever talks about. Nobody ever talks about them. I talk about them and I keep pointing you to the list of where you can find them. But until somebody takes this very seriously and begins to, until the vast majority of voters, because our audience does take this seriously, that's why they tune in every week, to the number of hundreds tune in every week to hear what we're talking about, because they do take this seriously. But until we get the 20,000 voters that show up for these elections to come in and say, you know what, we're going to pay attention, that's when things will shift. And I don't think it's ever
Well,
going to happen, because I don't think our system is set up for it to happen.
well, let's look at one group that when their vote was taken on the mayor pro tem, they immediately voice their concern. So there is groups in the community now that are voicing their concerns about these kinds of actions. So I'm glad of that. But I hope that, as you mentioned earlier, is that when the county begin when the
But
when
that same group, Mr. Floyd, and see, here's where I say this is where we have a problem, because that group had a valid concern. They laid out, documented all of the information cleanly, clearly, and just very articulately. And then you had people come behind and want to berate that group and essentially say, like, talk about the parts of what they believe in that somebody else doesn't agree with. Listen, we need to get to the point where we recognize we're not going to agree with all of anything that anybody says. We're going to find places of disagreement. There are going to be places where you and I disagree. Mr. Floyd, we have disagreements all the time, but we don't shut down communication and correspondence. Our disagreements cause us to communicate and talk through and figure out what it is that we agree on, so that we can lean into what we agree on. It should not be such in a community that what you disagree about causes you to ostracize the person that you disagree with. I can disagree and still be in fellowship on what we agree about. But when you have people who will try to nullify everything that somebody says because they don't like something that they stand for, that's why we are in the position where you can have people playing on the emotions and the insecurities and the angers of community members in order to remain in control. And that's why you see that Catalyst Site 1 getting ready to be a housing project instead of an economic development engine for Murchison Road. And the people on Murchison Road should be pissed the F off about getting another housing development on the end cap of their corridor, while everybody else is being considered for economic development opportunities. The people on Murchison Road should be yelling and screaming about a friggin' project on the end of the. You already got a project down there.
I Keith, but if I may, Madam Waddell, you use the word housing project.
No, I use the word project. I dropped housing and just called it a project because I want to be straight with the people about what to expect. Low income housing, and this is no dig against anybody that has to live in low income housing. You know what it is. I got people that's in low income housing that I love, that I adore, but it's still the projects. It's still the projects. It is the place where people come because they cannot afford market rate housing.
Yeah,
And that
but
means that those are low income individuals who do not have the same revenue or financial standing that the people who are in market rate housing do. That's not a knock against them, but it is to say that you cannot make a corridor like the Murchison Road corridor Project Central. You're
Well,
not elevating the community by doing that.
and over a period of time, over a period of time, we talk about affordable housing, and we talking about providing affordable housing, and we talking about first-time home buyer. But some kind of way, they do not teach them that moving from community A to community B requires a different mindset. So when you move to community B, you don't bring all that you had in community A over into community B. So when that occurred, that area began to deteriorate. Okay. It's began to
You do realize that we are on the verge of another civil war.
well, it depends on
Because people are really pissed off about what's happening. Like we're not as stupid as we're just not as stupid as the government thinks we are. Mr. Floyd, nationally, you got people right now. Like when Charlie Kirk was murdered, I don't think people understood what was going to come out in the aftermath of that. But now you've got subsections of the community, large subsections of the community, who are beginning to look at their government as murderers,
what
as
is
murderers. And rightfully so, because even when you think about JFK, so now not only at a national level are people discontented, and then you got photos coming out from the Epstein files about, and I know we don't talk national, but this is important because it trickles down to local politics. Mr. Floyd, then you got photos and emails that were supposed to be redacted but that are easily unredacted, and this stuff is coming out, and people are beginning to put together, those of us who are critical thinkers are starting to put together that our government is
T
playing us when it comes to
T
DNR, because they all embed together literally and figuratively.
T I look at all of this. I remember when what was his name, Colonel North or Colonel Norton, with the Marine.
Oliver North, Ollie North.
I
I was
watched
just talking about him the other day.
every day. I watched it, and at the end, I learned a whole lot.
A
And I,
whole lot.
and I began to understand then government only gives you what they want to give you when you ask for a public request. So I just quit listening.
And that's not just nationally, that's here too. So when you guys are putting in these public records requests, you're getting what they want to give you, and they're withholding what they want to withhold, because the governing body, the council person, is responsible. If it's in my phone, I'm responsible for turning over the record. There's nobody coming to get my phone, perusing through it, looking through it, saying, let me give you this. So you're only going to get what they want to give you. And Mr. Floyd, there are people who are palpably discontented with being treated like they're stupid. And I would say to our local governing board, you really might want to start acting like we're not as dumb as you think we are, because what you're doing is inciting frustration that is going to backfire in a dangerous way. We have seen it is historically documented that when people get to the place where we are, chaos ensues. And
Well,
I do not want to see chaos in our community or in our nation. I'm pleading with our governing bodies. Stop acting like we're fools. Stop doing stuff. Stop pissing in our face and telling us it's rain. Cut it
it
out.
is- I mean, I understand what you're saying, but our community, especially the African American community,
The
is so
voters,
easy to
the
be
voters,
manipulated.
the
So
voters, but
easy
the
to manipulate.
vast majority of the voters, but Mr. Floyd, those people who are sitting at home and saying, I'm just not going to vote, is not because they don't have an investment in their community. It is because they're frustrated. The vast majority of people who do
But
not vote, go
but
ahead.
T, but what they say in each election, and they don't realize that I mean, they have a large percentage of the minority voters that they know gonna vote straight Democrat. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Now, on the other hand,
But that's less than 10% of our population. That's
I
the
know
part that
that,
I'm trying to,
but they
that's
don't
the,
have to
I want to
campaign
hone
for
in
that.
on that.
They don't have to campaign for that.
Yeah, but
So,
the other 90% of the population is sitting back seething because we recognize that this system is rigged.
we are. Well, let me give you an example, T. Josh Stein was endorsed by Roy Cooper prior to. Okay, so when Cooper endorsed Josh Stein, it automatically cut off all the money from any of the candidates going forward that was running.
Rigged.
Okay,
Yeah.
already. See, so we knew that Robert Morgan was going to resign as the state Supreme Court justice,
Right.
that he was going to run for the governorship. So
Right.
when he announced that he was going to run, there was a PAC established in 2017 to help elect statewide candidates running for statewide office. Make a long story short, okay. So that cut off all the money for him. Now you know what just happened? Josh Stein now has told the African American community that Roy Cooper is the person that we want to see for the U.S. Congress already.
But why would you expect anything different, right?
I'm just
We
saying,
wouldn't expect anything different,
five
right?
other candidates, is that there are five other candidates that are out there that also that seeking, and I'm glad that the voters have at least five other choices. But the African American community don't realize what Cooper did in the 2020 election and the 2024 election. They don't even realize that minority candidates was not given strong support by the governor. It doesn't matter, Tisha. Now,
Let me say this. You
only thing
say
that
the
matters
African
is
American.
that he has a D or she has a D in front of her name. And let me make this very clear, is that one thing that I've learned since I've been in politics, I thought that some African American leaders were strong, saying that if you are an experienced person, this is what we need to move us from tier one to tier two. And I saw, you know, and I'm back again now, be quiet, is that you sent me a photo of a person, that a first time person running for office, and this person was a seasoned person, knowing that this person can't do anything and bring economic growth to our community. Okay, knowing this. And so I'm just hoping that this election, that the voters will say to these individuals that you are experienced. We no longer need experience. We just need anybody to come in and replace you.
My grandmother used to say you can hope in one hand and poop in the other and see which one fills up the quicker. And I don't think she said poop, but I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that today. Let me say this, and then I don't want to belabor this because there's a couple other things I think we want to talk about today. Mr. Floyd, I will say this. I think that politicians are so busy focusing on the 20% of the voters that they forget about the 80% of the people who are just paying attention and getting screwed. And that 80% of the people, y'all better not forget about them because they're the ones who are sitting and seething. They're the ones who are sitting and paying attention and watching the room and looking in the corners and seeing who's doing what. And they are the ones who are really at their wits end. And we're that you history has already demonstrated this model, this system implodes or explodes eventually. And I just feel like we are so, if we don't course correct, we're not going to buy ourselves the time that we'd really like to buy ourselves. And we can do all of this talking and pontificating, but the truth of the matter is that this system sucks. Our elected body is some suckers, and we deserve better.
Well, teach it as we go into 2026. Stop going to meetings and want to sit up in the front row. Go to meetings and sit in the back so you can see the communication that is taking place. Okay. Now, one thing that you have to look at, which is your strong side to encode communication. With me, I always sit to the right. Okay. And I don't sit up front because I got a small view of the person that's making the presentation. So I sit in the back where, remember that horse that reply the field? They put them blindfolders on and he go right straight down the field, down that road. I sit in the back so I can get a better observation of the speaker and also the persons in the audience, how they're sitting, how they're communicating, their body language, and all of that. I get a better view. I mean, I do it at church, I do it at community meetings, and somebody said, "Why you always sit in the back?" Well, I don't need you to help me make decisions. I can make them by myself because I know which way your decision is going to go. But
Yeah.
anyway, Keith, I just hope
There are
that
very few people who make it into elected office and stand out, in my opinion, as stalwarts. Very few. And I'm looking for those people for me to champion. And I'll tell you this, I don't even have to agree with all of your policies. And I'm gonna say here's why I don't have to agree. Because you ain't gonna get all the stuff done you say you want to do anyway. So I'm gonna tell you, and I know I'm gonna catch flack for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I feel like one of the stalwarts, and maybe it is because I feel like he's just so similar to me in terms of being willing to push back and fight. I feel like one of those stalwarts is Mario Benavente. He is not a rollover boy, and I can appreciate that. I do not agree with the vast majority of his political policies, period. I just don't. But I like the fact that he is not going to just let people violate the rules, violate the ethics of the office, and he's not going to just let people say what they want to say and be wrong and be loud about being wrong. And to me, those are the types of people that we need in office. And he doesn't. And I'm gonna tell you who somebody I think is just a wild card, and they need to go home. And this again at a national level. That woman AOC. He does not put me in the frame of mind of an AOC. Now again, he be all over the place with some stuff for me, but in this community, in my opinion, he is somebody who is a necessary part of the political process because he's a kink in their holes and a cog in their wheel, and everybody need a rock in their cog, and everybody needs that to slow down some of this stupidity that we see fast walking. I'm gonna say it again: putting a housing project on Catalyst Site One is stupid, and the people along Murchison Road should be deeply disturbed that this is what their governing body wants to do.
well, Keith, I can recall one time I was in Chicago, and I
Mr. Floyd, there's no shopping along I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's no shopping along that corridor. There's nowhere that you can run, but they've talked forever about it being a food desert. There's no shopping plazas, there's nothing. What in it, why? Who?
the only thing that you have to do is come to this body and express because the city of Fayetteville have listed at their number priority affordable housing is one of their goals. But that's a but. But I just wish that the city of Fayetteville would do more code enforcement to reduce crime.
We are
More
never going to be
code.
nothing more than poor if we don't bring better jobs into this community.
But
We're we're always going to need a big old tranche of
don't
affordable
worry about it,
housing
T.
if we
You come
don't
to don't worry about it, T. If you come to us with any kind of idea about a job, the city of Fayetteville is going to jump on it, and the county is going to jump on it. It doesn't make any difference because we're talking about now about a data center coming to Fayetteville. Now, do you know where Tarboro, North Carolina is?
Mm-hmm.
On the other side of Rocky Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
They turned down this request to have
And
that.
Tarboro is a footprint compared to the city of Fayetteville.
And they turned this and they
Because
knew
they understand the drain on a community and the fact that it does not actually benefit the citizens. It doesn't really
that's what I'm
benefit
saying.
the
They
citizens.
turned it down, but they say they're considering Fayetteville as his next site, and 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 they considered the same as they did hog farming. Okay, so the city of Fayetteville wants that. Doesn't make any difference about the noise that it's going to have, the effect that it has on the environment, the drain that it's going to have on our infrastructure, meaning our water, and quite natural, it can require a lot of power. So therefore, it could require PWC eventually to acquire more power, and it's going to increase our electrical bill. Now,
Speaking of which, have you seen that there's a municipality in North Carolina? I want to say it's right outside of Charlotte that is having an issue right now with their utility. And you see, when a utility is privately owned, they're about profitability. And this utility has experienced spikes where people are getting water bills where they're expecting water bills in the thousands of dollars, Mr. Floyd. That is crippling. That's debilitating.
which
That
is
is debilitating.
well, you
And
know,
they're going to their government and they're saying, help us. We need help. Can you please create some sort of a policy that says they can't do this to us? And they're not getting the help that they'd
they
like to
can't
get. And
because it's private owned, and the municipality cannot afford to buy that private owned facility, and
and
then
they and I yes,
and water is not a profitable. I mean, it, there's not a lot of revenue in water.
right. And I mentioned this, but if you charging households $1,000 for their water bill a month, you generating some revenue. But I mentioned this because I want everybody to understand when you think about our municipality, I need you to understand why I fought so hard for against a private equity firm coming in and leasing our utility. Because when private equity firms come in, there's what's her name? She's in Washington D.C. I'm going to post it when I find it, but
Mm.
she had made a commentary about private equity firms and how, and she used Kmart as an example, how when they come in and acquire a piece of property or a company, their goal is not to make the company profitable. Their goal is to sell the company off for parts, bankrupt it, and then take all the money out of the company and just leave it where it's now got to file bankruptcy because it's of no use to anybody anymore. Private equity firms come in and suck money out. They do not improve
It's something said
companies.
to the city of Fayetteville that we will give you $700 million to manage your PWC. I mean, they said they're gonna give you $700 million. So,
Mr. Floyd, but
so
that was over a very long period of time. And we were already, and this was, I remember Doug looking over at me when I said this because I can count, like I can do math. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the numbers. And I said, what they're offering us, we're already going to get. We're just going to have to wait to get it. We're not going to get it up front because PWC was already giving us money.
that,
So I said, this doesn't even make the numbers don't even make sense. You guys just want it all up front instead of having to get it year by year. This deal is not even a good
I
deal.
know it, T. But look at it, T. Now, even the even my boys on the street, okay, even my boys on the street say that's just not mathing, okay.
Right. The math was not mathing.
Yeah, so
Right.
they're not
Right.
making that. I'm already making $700 million. Okay, got $700 million.
Thank you,
Now
Mr.
you gonna
Floyd.
give
Thank
me
you.
seven
Thank
hundred
you.
million dollars. I'm already
So you
making.
can come and manage it for me
Yeah,
and bankrupt our utility and leave us screwed. And but this is what I'm saying when I say, but the voters don't care. Because see, if I knew if but Mr. Floyd, what else we got today? Oh, I know. Here's my question. What has been your favorite show this year?
my favorite thing this year is how the Martin Luther King Committee can do all of this, and the public don't know anything. Not even the committee. And we've been talking about this, and the city and the county is also going to contribute money towards the development of the statue. I mean the sparrow. But even they don't know how the money is being spent. But yet still, we are going to give them taxpayer money and haven't seen any invoices of money being spent and how the state money has been spent. But we are going to provide them tax money at the time that they, request the amount of money that has been committed. So that has
Yeah.
been my favorite story. I mean, one of mine.
Yeah, one of my favorite shows, believe it or not, it's a recent one. It's the one where we had the guy come on from FAMPO. the director
Oh,
from Fampo. I think if people go back and watch that, that was such an insightful show because it gives you a peek behind the curtain on how decisions really are made. Because he didn't hold back. He was very direct. He was succinct. He was clear. It made sense. And if you go and you watch that, you'll be like, oh, this is how the sausage is made.
mhm.
So I really enjoyed that show. What do you think is the word that we used on this podcast the most last year?
Well, what you sent me was we do it in short, ATTY.
Right. Our most used word was the word attorney, which was so interesting because even today we're talking about that. But I think it's because it's so relevant and important. You guys have to really dig in. You have to bite the, if we give you the chicken, even if you don't eat it, pull it apart. See what's at the root of it. What's the bone? What's underneath this meat? Um, Mr. Floyd, what has been a topic that you did not like that we discussed?
Well, I like all the topics because I mean, I haven't. There's not one that I did not like because I saw all of them as being informational
Yeah.
type of communication. So, people begin to understand, and a lot of people, indicate that they have been listening to the program. And what got me, as we began to close, was a student at Fayetteville State. I went to this swearing in ceremony, and he told me, "I don't miss y'all program."
Yeah.
This is a
And
student at
I
Fayetteville
think
State.
that's Zach. I think that's Zach. And we're going to actually get Zach on our podcast. We're also going to get Christian on our podcast. Those are two young men who are very involved politically. They're young, so they're the demographic that everybody says they want to tap into. And they have very strongly held political beliefs and views, but they're also knowledgeable about the process. So we are going to work in the coming year to get them on our show. Mr. Floyd, who's a dream guest for you to have on our podcast? Who would you love to have on our podcast next year?
Well, I would like to have the superintendent of the school system, the
I was
board,
going to say I'd love to have a member of the school board. The chair of the school board would be great.
and I like to have
Funny
Doug.
how we're in sync with that. Yeah.
I like to have Doug on that program. I'm not too much concerned about our elected officials at the state level because
Yeah.
they are not,
Why would you like to have Doug on the podcast?
because we have not had him, and then there's been so much.
He's a spin master though. I don't I kind of I don't he's a spin master. He knows how to spin a story.
I mean, all of them know how to do that. I
Not
mean,
everybody. Not everybody, Mr. Floyd. There's
all
some
of
people who
yeah.
no, no, no.
I mean,
No,
you know,
no.
I mean, but then again, when you in some certain kind of road, like you
Yeah,
have
he's
to,
the city manager. He has to be a spin master.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
so I would love to, you know, love to 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 have him, and even the chair, the county manager, to let us know how this revenue, what was the city six revenue
Revenue
neutral?
neutral. The city did +6. The county, I think, did revenue neutral.
Yeah,
But
I
it
mean,
didn't matter. It's not new. I mean, revenue, we still, yeah.
but anyway, T, let me say to you, Happy New Year, and everything, and I hope that you don't participate in the North Carolina action group.
I don't drink. You don't have to worry about me. I don't drink alcohol. I drank enough alcohol in my younger days. I don't
Okay,
touch it. I'm good.
okay. Well, enjoy
I'm
it.
good. I did the dumb stuff young, so I can get old in peace.
Yeah, yeah. And bear in mind now, when you got to pay $600 and $700 a month for car insurance and another $600 a car payment, you know, even the dumbest person that sometimes get wise to say, "Oh, you teach." Before we
Yes.
close, uh, I I read that the auditor was looking at the North Carolina Education Lottery, and it was saying that it was bought in $6 million more than what it uh, 5.6 whatever it was billion, and more than what they did in the previous year, but they gave the school system less. You know what they said, Tisha?
What?
We have stopped buying the high end ticket. Now we're buying the low end tickets. So that means that we cannot give as much money to the education system than we have in the past. So what
Well,
they're
and
saying,
at one point we did have somebody come on from the state lottery to talk about about how that money was dispersed, and it's not required that they give all the money. We knew that.
no,
Yeah.
no, they're not required. But again, this is the system wherein that you are already at a poverty level,
Right.
and you're going in there trying to win, just like you go to Las Vegas and think that you're gonna beat Las Vegas.
Yeah, but this the funny thing, Mr. Floyd, because you're the same. This is coming from the same person who advocates for the casinos.
But I'm not saying I'm that person, but I'm not gonna win because I know that I can't win.
Yeah, I just think
So
gambling is such a slippery slope, and people, it just creates more problems than it solves.
and I'm
But
not a
Mr.
syndicate
Floyd,
that way.
yeah, but Mr. Floyd, it's been a great year. It has been a great year. I've had a tremendous amount of fun doing this podcast with you. Thank you, as always. Thank you for sharing the stage with me. And what do you want to? What piece of profound information or advice, sage advice, do you want to leave our audience with for 2025?
Use common sense in your decision making process.
Yeah,
Common sense. Don't let nobody sell you a car and you make a down payment and they tell you that Amazon is going to deliver your tires 4 weeks later.
yeah,
Use common sense. Find you a
yeah,
dealer that find you a dealer that's going to allow you to drive off the lot with your car.
yeah. Um, I really desire to pray for our community, and so I will. I will continue to pray for our community. My prayer will be that our community wakes up, that we speak up, and that we stand up, um, and that we do so in a way that honors God. Because you can be doing all the fighting, but if you fighting for unrighteous reasons, I need you to sit down. So that will be my prayer. I am going to be really rooting for the awakening, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Aside from the Lord doing it, I'm not expecting it. Um, Justice, as I always say, if you want justice, you will never have it apart from righteousness. There is no justice apart from righteousness, and there is no righteousness apart from Jesus. So if you want justice, you better look for Jesus. And with that being said, Mr. Floyd, Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. And I
Happy New
will
Year
not
to
stop by that beverage store.
That's right. And to our audience, Happy New Year. And like, share, subscribe, follow, tell a friend to tell a friend, and ask your council person what they're going to do about their bond council as they look to issue these bond dollars for this development on Murchison Road. Call your council person and ask them, are they going to be looking for new bond counsel in light of the censorship of our current bond attorney? And I think that's all I got, Mr. Floyd. So until next year, we're out of here.
Thank you.